Yep, I already got to make this video. What is up, Finn fans? Normally, the Monday after, I make a deeper dive video. Last week, I even made a deeper dive video after a loss. Kind of wanted to do more perspective on why we lost, all that stuff. We all know why we lost. I don't really need to delve deeper into that. But I am going to talk about what the Miami Dolphins can do to turn this around. They're on a 3-game losing streak. 3-3 right now, tied for third place, but they do have the tiebreaker over the Patriots in the division. You got the Jets at 4-2. You got the Bills at 5-1. Got to turn it around. This is the point. You're at a 3-game skid. You got actually a pretty nice schedule. The first 6 games, the Miami Dolphins had the number 1 strength of schedule. The remaining, they're the 22nd easiest. 4 AFC teams have easier schedules than the Miami Dolphins for the remainder of the season. So you look at the remainder of the schedule, you got some teams like the Steelers, even the Packers. At first, I thought the Packers were going to really be dangerous and something I need to worry about. Jets beat the crap out of the Packers in Lambeau. So I'm not that worried about the Packers anymore. So this is at the point where the Miami Dolphins and the coaches and the players need to do some reflection, evaluation, and they need to turn this sucker around, because this is the point where you got to turn it around. You got to make the moves. You got to hurry up and turn this mamma jam around. Before we jump into that, because I got a lot of things I'm going to talk about. I've been sitting here. It is now 12:41. I've been sitting here for probably about a couple hours doing some research. Some of you guys were asking me questions, all that stuff. So we're going to talk about all that stuff. I got to shout out some new patrons and some new members. On the membership side, I have Art, Paul Schonhort. Hope I said your name right. Restore 760 plus. Don Dahula, A Dubs, Battered Fin Fan, feel you there, and Justin Vanderberg. Thank you guys so much for joining the membership. And on the Patreon side, Kathleen O'Grady, thank you so much for becoming a patron. So yeah, we're going to talk about essentially what the Dolphins need to do, maybe additions, subtractions, this, and that, on what they need to do to turn the season around. First and foremost, though, I'm noticing a lot of other fan bases and stuff are, oh, you guys Super Bowl at 3-0. I'm not one of those. So I know for a fact when we hit 3-0, I was ecstatic. I was happy. I said, we got a short week. We got to face the Bengals. Anything could happen. Enjoy it while it's here. Not once during that 3-0, start did I say that we're going to win the division. We're going to win a Super Bowl. We're making the play. Never. But apparently some fan bases are heckling us, which we're on a 3-game losing streak. We started 3-0, saying, you're all high and mighty at 3-0. Were we not supposed to be happy being 3-0? Like, was the Dolphin fan base supposed to be like, oh, 3-0 should be 3-0? Like, I don't understand that thought process. But we started 3-0 right now, 3-game losing streak. That Buffalo Bills game cost, you see the Thanos meme. What did it cost? Everything. That Buffalo Bills game cost us a lot. From injuries to injuries on top of injuries. And then you add on injuries. So the fact that Tua is out is the biggest one. That's the biggest knock. The Dolphins are literally like 10-0 over the past however many games with Tua, and they're winless without him. As much as you might not like him as a football player and you think he's garbage, we need to trade him, he needs to be gone, yada yada, blah blah blah. He can't stay healthy. When he's on the field, we win. So not having him for these past 3 games has really hurt the team, especially these past 2 games. Where to me, I noticed a lot of quarterback misses and a lot of underwhelming performances are what cost the Dolphins to lose these games. This past game that happened yesterday for you, today for me, the Dolphins D forced the Vikings to punt 10 times. No NFL team has forced more punts in a game this season. I'll say that one more time. The Dolphins defense forced the Vikings to punt 10 times. No NFL team has forced more punts in a game this season. And I was down on the defense. I was like, going into this Vikings game, the defense, it's going to be a shootout because our defense isn't going to be able to stop Justin Jefferson. 10 punts. Most a team has forced in an NFL game this season. That the amount of opportunities the offense had to score, to get points on the board, like, it's just ridiculous that we lost this game. And it always happens that all of a sudden something happens, the Waddle fumble, the missed field goal, something happens, and then all of a sudden the defense falls apart, gives up a touchdown, game's over. Like, it happened the past 2 weeks, and it's just they got a complimentary football. We need to play complement. That's like the thing to turn this season around. You got to play complimentary football. The quarterback play, like Skylar Thompson was doing well, right? Before he hurt his hand, and he hurt his hand bad. That sucker was all bloody and taped up. Before he hurt his hand, he was marching him down the field. He took an unwarranted sack to knock us out of field goal range, and then the 5 penalties. We got down to the 3 penalty, a nice play penalty, converted, a penalty. Just 2 drives, we could have had points. And could have had the lead 6-0. Worst case scenario. And then it would have been 7-6, and then kick the field goal 9-7. Difference of, even if we score a touchdown, 14-0, 14-7, 20. See what I'm saying? And then all of a sudden the opposing team, it's the same thing with the Jets, complimentary football. The Jets, the Miami Dolphin defense was holding the Jets, punting, third down, turnover on downs, and then the Dolphin offense was not moving the ball. Like, we'd get down there, kick a field goal, miss a field goal, and it's just, you got to play. That's one of the things to turn the season around. You got to play complimentary football. Your defense is doing their job. You got to put points on the board. You got to score points. And that's like a duh, but don't say duh to me. Say duh to the Miami Dolphins offense, that you see your defense is causing 3 and outs constantly, and there was like 10 of them, and then you don't do anything in return. You make dumb plays. You stay in the pocket. You stare down receivers. You don't move. You don't elevate. Yes, the offensive line didn't do well. Yes, Greg Little was giving up a ton of pressure. But when Teddy Bridgewater started to move out of the pocket, started to roll out to his left and his right, he made plays. He marched down the field. He scored a touchdown, put us within 6, because he stopped staying in the pocket. He stopped having concrete feet and staring down receivers and letting the pressure come to him. Too little, too late. Actually, it wasn't too little, too late, because Jalen Waddle fumbled the ball. That was probably Waddle's worst day of his entire life. The interception and the fumble, both were on him. Just horrible. But you got to play complimentary football. That's one of the ways we could turn around. The other way, corners. We went into the season with probably one of the best secondaries in the NFL. With Javon Holland, Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, and then you had Trill Williams started coming in, and then you had Kader Kohu, and then you're like, wow, this secondary, and then Trill Williams goes down, and you're like, crap, and then Byron's not ready. You're like, crap. Now Nick Needham tears his Achilles. He's going to be out for the year, and now Kader Kohu also got banged up. Keon Crossan got banged up, and you're just like, and on top of all the corners, we still forced 10 punts. The frustration that runs through my head with this offense. You could have won these games. We could have won these games. Like, that's what boils up inside of me. I'm going to go on a little tyrant. But that's what boils up inside of me. We could have won both of these games, the Jets and the Vikings game. The defense did their job. You were marching down the field. Score a field goal, score a touchdown, you're up by 1. Fumble. And then missed field goal against the Jets. And then it's just the bad. And it's just, you're like, should have won these games. We beat ourselves. Stop beating yourselves. But again, back to my original point, corners. One of you guys asked me how long is Byron Jones on physically able to perform list before he goes to IR? And that's a legit good question. 21 days after the 4-week process. So when you start the season on physically unable to perform list, it's like White for the Bills. 4 weeks. And then you can come off. It's been 4 weeks. The Bengals game was the week 4, right? It's 21 days after that. Essentially 3 weeks after that. Week 7. What are we coming up to? Week 7. If he doesn't come off the physically unable to perform list this week, he's going on IR. And he's done for the year, Byron Jones. I don't know what's going on with Byron. Some people say he doesn't want to play. That is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. If you think a football player doesn't want to play, you've never played competitive football. But if he doesn't come off the physically unable to perform list this week, he's going to IR. And he's done for the year. So he's got to come off the physically unable to perform list. But again, we lost Nick Needham. He tore his Achilles. He's going to be done for the year. Kader Kohu had a pectoral injury, I think it was. Hopefully he can come back. Keon Cross, and hopefully his injury wasn't bad. Noah Benogany actually did decent. Almost had 2 interceptions in this game. Bright spot there. Bethel came in. He actually did pretty decent. Again, we forced 10 punts. How do we lose this game? We forced 10 punts. But the Dolphins need to address this. Chris Grier, you built garbage depth. Talked about it in the offseason, especially when I was looking at the defensive line. There ain't much depth on this team. You need to address it. You got cornerback William Jackson III. He wants to be traded from the Washington football team. The Commanders, make that move. Joe Hayden's still out there. Trey Waynes is still out there. There are corners that you can go out and sign and bring in to help this team. Joe Hayden's probably the one that everyone keeps talking about. Chris Grier needs to do something now at this point. With Nick Needham now going down with the torn Achilles, and I saw it happen. The way his foot turned, and he still made the tackle on Adam Thielen. That's another way we could turn the season around, because X played really well. There was a play where I think it was like a bootleg, or it was like an end around. Not end around, but a wheel route to Jefferson that he gave up big yardage. But other than that, he played well. Coming back against Justin Jefferson. Got to address the corners, because we have no corners anymore. We had Eric Rowe playing corner, who was our safety. So we got to address the corners. Next thing that we have to address to turn the season around. The offensive line is bad. Again, Teron Armstead wasn't out there. Austin Jackson wasn't out there. And without Teron Armstead out there, Greg Little was hot garbage today. I'm not going to say he wasn't, but I'm also not going to say that the Miami Dolphin quarterbacks today couldn't have moved more in the pocket to evade the pressure. And you can say, how you saw Teddy Bridgewater do it when we started to march down the field and score. That's what he should have been doing all game. Get out of the pocket. Go to the left, go to the right. Get out of the pocket, advance the play, throw it down the field. He did it on the scoring drive, and it was beautiful. We marched right down the field and scored. He should have been doing it all game. If he did it all game, we would have won this game. Oh, that's what I keep saying it, and I just want to scream. But the offensive line needs to be addressed. Liam Eichenberg is a liability at left guard. He needs to be taken out of there. Whether it's going out and getting Fisher, Eric Flowers apparently still available. The Miami Dolphins, every year, and I say this every year, they think they know better, right? And I'm a fan. I'm nobody. I'm not an analyst. I'm not an ex-NFL player. I'm a fan in New Jersey, in my studio, just with my eyes watching and noticing things. They always act like, no, we know what we're doing. And you're like, all right, because look at what our offensive coordinator did with the Chargers offensive line, and look what Applebaum did with the Boston College offensive line. All right, they obviously do know what they're talking about. But it gets to the point that you want to scream because it's not working. Last year, 1-7, they didn't make any changes until we got to 1-7, 1-6, because the loss to the Bills is when they made the change at defense. But they didn't make any changes, especially to the offensive line with Jesse Davis at right tackle. Then when they finally made the changes that need to be made, regardless of the competition we were playing, the team played better. So Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, Chris Grier, offensive coordinator, offensive line, all of you guys, pull your head out of your ass, and you need to make changes on this offensive line, and you need to get Liam Eichenberg out of the starting rotation because he is a liability. He cannot pull if his life depended on it. You like to pitch it to the right side. He just gives up doesn't block anybody, and we get tackles for losses. You need to take him out. You either need to take him out and bring in Eric Fisher, and put him at right tackle, and then take Austin Jackson and put him at left guard. He would thrive next to Teron Armstead. Or you need to bring back Eric Flowers and put him at left guard, and he'll do well there because he's done well there. Or you need to put Dieter back at center and take Connor Williams, who's one of the best guards in the NFL last year, or the past however much long, and put him at left guard. You need to take Eichenberg out. He's a liability. Robert Hunt played bad. He's committed too many penalties. But something needs to be done with this offensive line. Plain and simple. Regardless if it's the offensive line or the quarterback's fault for holding the ball, not moving, whatever, the offensive line needs to be addressed. And the fact, you're back to 500. So now's the time to address these things. That's why I'm making this video, because you're back to 500. You can't wait to hit another 6-game losing streak, and now all of a sudden you're 3-6. You need to make these moves now. The other thing, penalties. That's the one thing that Brian Flores was good at, even though last year the penalties started stacking up. Like once he got rid of that TNT wall, all of a sudden the teams got lazy again and the penalties started stacking up. So you can't say, well, Brian Flores had this team, we committed no penalties. We did. Like after the 2020 season, we committed a lot of penalties. But the 2020 season, this was the least penalized team. They were I don't know why all of a sudden the Miami Dolphins are 4th in the NFL in penalties with 43, 7th in the NFL with penalized yards with 331. The most play or whatever is other, it says, when it comes to their penalties, 17 of them. The next two highest penalties that they have, 5 false starts, 5 holdings. Offensive line. But the penalties need to stop. Prime example was that second drive where 5 penalties not only knocked us out of field goal range, but took 7 points off the board. Mike McDaniel, I don't know if it's you. I don't know if you're too lackadaisical. You're too, hey, I'm one of the guys or whatever. But you need to make these players accountable, and you need to stop the penalties because they're ridiculous and they're costing games, and the face masks against the Jets moved them down the field multiple times to give them touchdowns or field goals. Other than the stupid face mask penalties that got them points, the Dolphin defense really did well and held them to barely anything. Penalties. The other thing, we got to address the situation with getting pressure. We did well. We were in Kirk Cousins' face with sending blitzes. I think we had about 3 or 4 sacks. It was good to see. That needs to be consistent. And I think once we address and hopefully fix the cornerback situation, hopefully Byron comes back, that will get fixed. Because you'll notice on one of the sacks, Kirk Cousins wanted to throw it at Justin Jefferson, but X was on, I'm going to show it in the film breakdown, X was on his back, and Javon Holland came down and played perfectly. So he couldn't throw it to Justin Jefferson, and he took a sack. So, again, I want to see more pressure, but also the cornerback situation, it's a yin and yang situation. So if we don't address and fix the corners, the pressure's not going to get there because they could just throw quick passes and then don't matter how many times you blitz at them. Drops is another thing we need to talk about with these wide receivers. Tanner Connor had a few drops. Gesicki had a few drops. Jalen Waddle, again, he had one where he likes to do this thing where he jumps up in the air and kind of looks like he's trying to like grab the ball with his knees and his arms. Hands, my man. Use your hands, because when he did that, and then the ball bounced in the air, and then, Harrison Smith eventually, intercepted the ball after it bounced a few 400 times. You got to stop with the drops. You got to catch the ball, especially Chase Edmonds. If you notice, he's not targeted anymore. And then the last thing that needs to be addressed, Jason Sanders. 2020, you were an all-pro field goal kicker. You were like one of the best, Justin Tucker-esque. I think you might have had a better field goal percentage than Justin Tucker. Then we gave you a contract extension, and then these past 2 years, you've sucked wind. Like, I get that the field goal he missed yesterday was a 50-er. I think it was like a 51-yard field goal. But that sucker just went like knuckleball to the left. And then you missed one against the Jets, which again, I think was like around a 50-yard field goal. You should be making these. Like, we're depending on you, especially with the way the offense is. We're depending on you. So I don't know what's going on with Jason Sanders, but he needs to figure that sucker out. That's what I got for you. I feel like if the Dolphins, with Tua coming back, hopefully Teron Armstead, hopefully Austin Jackson, hopefully Byron Jones, again, we're getting more healthy in certain situations. X is out there, and then we have the bye week coming up. We can get even more healthy. If we can address and add more corners, if we can fix the offensive line, again, Armstead Jackson's coming back, but make the addition or moves we need to. Cut the penalties out. Play complementary football. The Dolphins can salvage this season. And that's funny me saying salvage the season when they're 3-3. And you look at the amount of teams in the NFL right now that are 3-3. Dolphins, Patriots, Ravens, Bengals, Titans had a bye. Chargers haven't played, but if they lose, they're 3-3. Packers are 3-3. Tampa's 3-3. Atlanta's 3-3. San Francisco, LA, and Seattle 3-3. There's a lot of teams in the NFL at this point that are 3-3, and a lot of good teams that are 3-3, like the Rams, 49ers, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Green Bay Packers, the Ravens, the Bengals. All these teams are 3-3. It just sucks because yesterday was a day where every team in the division won and we lost. So the season's not over. It's not far from over. But if we could just, again, corners, offensive line, penalties, pressure, drop, and field goals, we can just, and complementary football, if we could just address those things, looking at the schedule we have left with the Steelers, with the Lions, with the Bears, with the Browns, those are teams that we should beat. Again, we should have won these last two games, but we beat ourselves, and those opposing teams took advantage of it like they're supposed to. But I would love to go into this bye being 7-3, and then get rested, build off of this, move forward. So comment below if I missed anything that you think that the Dolphins need to address to turn this season around, to turn this skid around. Comment below. I'll see you guys tomorrow with the film breakdown. Again, it's going to be a short one. I'll just point out things here and there that I noticed. I'm not going to go too full-fledged in this loss because we already seen it. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Like usual, stay classy. I'm Fins up.